Hey everybody, welcome back to our online class. I hope that you're doing well and everything's going well for you. The purpose of this video lecture is to talk about the second essay of the semester that we're going to be working on this week, and that is an essay on Conor Knighton's book, Leave Only Footprints. We've been reading that book and talking about that book from a variety of different perspectives over the last couple of weeks, and this week we're going to focus on writing an essay related to that book. And so the purpose of this video lecture is to talk about the prompts that are available to you that you'll have to choose from for this particular essay, and also talk about some of the nuts and bolts of the essay, length and due dates, and all of those other specific requirements that are connected to the essay. In a video lecture in a little bit later on in this module, I'll talk more about some strategies and techniques for writing this kind of essay in case you have any questions about that I hope will be helpful to you. But for right now, I just wanted to go over the prompts. I just wanted to go over some of the requirements for the essay so that you can start planning out your week in terms of thinking about the essay, drafting the essay, and ultimately revising the essay and getting it ready to be submitted on Sunday night. So let me share my screen with you, and I will go over these prompts with you. And I hope that this will give you some options and give you some ideas of things to think about with relationship to his book that you can talk about. And so I took these prompts from really three main areas. One is the comments that Conor made at Convocation. If you remember, most of you and many of you went to his Convocation speech back in August over at the Pavilion. Some of the things that he said, some of the items he talked about in his speech, I made into a prompt. I took some of those basic ideas and made into a prompt. Another prompt I created based on the things you guys have been writing about in the modules the last couple of weeks, and also conversations that you and I have had outside of Blackboard, maybe through email or on Zoom or in person, regarding the book and some of the themes that Conor's writing about in that particular book. I took some of those ideas and made a prompt. And then another prompt I made based on the narrative essay work that we did with Essay 1. A lot of you had said in your reflection essays that you really enjoyed that kind of essay and that you had never written a first person narrative in that style before. So I created a prompt that kind of builds off of some of those skills that we worked on and talked about with our first essay with that narrative, This I Believe essay. So I just wanted to kind of go over the assignment sheet with you, talk about these prompts, and then talk a little bit more about some of the specific essay requirements. And so in this first paragraph, you'll see on the assignment sheet, this is sort of a big picture, 30,000-foot view summary of the book and some of the themes and ideas that Conor is talking about. Basically, as we've learned in reading this book, this is an account of one man's journey to visit every American national park over the course of the year. And this was spurned by the end of his relationship. He was engaged to his fiancee. That ended. It ended suddenly. It ended badly for him. And so he used this both as a way to learn a bit more about the national parks, but also, as he writes about so often and as he talked about in his presentation at Convocation, also as a little bit of an opportunity to help him heal both emotionally and psychologically from the end of his relationship. And so those themes are what I used and the feedback that I got from you to create these prompts. And so let's take a look at these prompts and we'll talk about them briefly. The first thing I want to say about this before you get into these prompts, make sure that you have read the book. You will not be successful on these prompts if you have not read the book. So you don't want to waste time this week trying to read the book, think about the essay, draft the essay, revise the essay, and have it ready for Sunday or before if you haven't read the book. So if you haven't read the book, and I know I gave you sort of a timeline over the last couple of weeks about how many pages you should have had read by each week, that was designed to help you with this essay and to make this essay a little bit easier and a little bit more manageable for you. So if you haven't read yet, you've got your work cut out for you in terms of getting caught up on this. But I think you'll see here with these prompts that if you've read the book and are familiar with what goes on in that book, and I know some of you have been talking about the book in your EDHE courses as well, which is great. I think you'll be ready to sit down and think about this essay, these prompts, and get ready to write an essay that is representative of your best thinking and your best reasoning. So let's look at the first prompt. The first prompt deals with this concept of leave no trace. And he writes about, Conor does, this slogan that he saw at a lot of the national parks, leave no trace, leave no trace. And some of that was designed about, littering. Some of that was designed about, come and see, but don't leave a negative footprint wherever you go. But he talks about how he likes this slogan, take only memories, leave only footprints, which is the title for the book, and that's where the title of the book came from. So this prompt asks you to think about what is the origin of that phrase that he uses. Why does Knighton prefer the similar but different phrasing? Does he use the word footprints literally? Do you think he uses the word footprints literally? Write a thesis-driven essay in which you argue why Knighton prefers the phrasing he does. Be sure to include specific evidence from the text and to cite all of your sources. So you can look at his phrase, take only memories, leave only footprints, from a variety of different perspectives. And I've given you some questions there to consider in developing that into an essay. What is the origin, or what do you think is the origin of the phrase that Knighton uses? For example, I think some of the origin of that phrase could come from the fact that his relationship ended, and it ended suddenly and ended badly. And he has the memories of that relationship, and he has memories of that experience, and he's taken those with him, even though the footprints that were left behind in their relationship are just footprints. There's nothing permanent. There's nothing that is going to stand the test of time in that relationship. He took the memories from his relationship with his fiance, and what he's left behind is footprints, the footprints of their relationship. So I think that is one way you could look at, for example, that phraseology. But what is the origin of the phrase that he uses? Why does he prefer similar but different phrasing? And then does he use the word footprints literally? So you could take any one of those questions, look for examples from the story itself, look for examples from his visit to the parks, look for examples from the thoughts that he shares about this concept, and develop that into an essay that gives an interpretation of this phrase and his change of phrase: take only memories, leave only footprints. And he talked a little bit about that in his convocation speech. So that's something to keep in mind with that particular prompt. Prompt number 2 deals with some videos and deals with looking at video evidence and textual evidence. And so we've been talking about the last couple of weeks this idea of synthesis and taking information from two different sources around a similar topic and kind of melding it together into a synthesis essay. This prompt asks you to do that. And what I've asked you to do here is to look at the 24 video segments that are on CBS Sunday Morning's website, which is who Conor works for when he's not writing books. And I've put the link there that should take you right to that. And the parks that are covered in these segments spread out over 17 of the 23 chapters. And so 17 of the 23 chapters in the book, he writes about the parks that you're going to see featured in these videos, in that video link that I've got there. So what I've asked you to do for this prompt is watch one or more on the trail videos and read or reread corresponding chapters and leave only footprints. What do you notice are the similarities and differences between the video about the park and the chapter about the park? How does the medium of video versus print impact your understanding and interest? Do you think the audience for CBS Sunday Morning is the same as the audience for the book? Write a thesis-driven essay analyzing how the medium, audience, and purpose impact what is included in the video segment and the book chapter for one park. Be sure to clearly cite your sources. So if you're thinking about setting up an essay, watch those videos, pick one of those videos that corresponds to one of the parks that you learned a lot about, that you knew nothing about and learned about, or maybe it's a park you've actually visited yourself. Look for the video correspondence that deals with that park, and then go back and reread that chapter out of the book, and then write an essay that looks at how the medium versus video versus print impacts our understanding of what it is he wants us to know about that park and that experience, how the audience is connected to that, and the purpose. Why do you think he spent time taking us on a visual tour of that park in addition to writing about it in the book? So this is asking you to synthesize some video audio evidence with some evidence from the actual book itself. So this asks you to think about one chapter specifically, connect it to one video. And so for this option, if you decide to take this prompt, you're going to have to really become an expert on that chapter at that park and the video that corresponds with that park. So that's probably going to require you to watch the video a few times, read the chapter a few times to make sure you have a general understanding of what's going on in that chapter and in that video. But what is it he's trying to show in both of those mediums, print and video, about that park, and how this connects to his overarching theme about sort of, taking memories and leaving only footprints. So that's prompt number 2. That's more of a synthesis prompt. The third prompt is more of the narrative prompt that I talked about a moment ago, which connects back to some of the skills and things we talked about and discussed with the narrative and the This I Believe essay for essay 1. So here's prompt 3. Try out nature or travel writing yourself. This is where you actually get to become Conor Knighton in some way and experience what he demonstrated in his book. Explore any of the following natural spaces around campus or Oxford. Some of you I know have probably been here already. If you haven't been to any of these spaces yet, this might be a good chance to visit. So University Tree Trail, Bailey Woods Trail, the South Campus Rail Trail, Whirlpool Trails, which that's up by the South Campus Rec Center right before you pull into the parking lot, Lamar Park, Woodland Parket Park, which is on the West Oxford Loop and Anderson Road, and any other city or local park that is in Oxford or near campus. So this actually asks you to go out and visit one of those places. I love Lamar Park. Lamar Park is probably my favorite park in Oxford. If you haven't been there, I would highly recommend that you go. They've got really nice walking trails, lots of green space. Lake Patsy is there. You can actually walk around the lake. You can walk out on the dock, out onto the water. You can sit by the water. You can do a lot of different things. There's benches that are there that are close to the water, so it's a great place to sort of sit and relax and reflect. It's probably my favorite park. If you haven't been there, I would encourage you to go. Even outside of this assignment, just go and visit, take a couple of your friends. It's really a nice way to spend an afternoon or an evening, especially now that it's getting a little cooler and you can actually go out and enjoy it and not feel like you're being cremated alive when you go outside in the evenings. So I would highly recommend that park. If you haven't been to any of them and you want to try one out, try Lamar Park. It's not too terribly far from campus, pretty easy to get to. But anyway, go and visit one of those parks. And what I've asked you to do is to take a notebook with you and put your cell phone away, limit your technology distractions, no earbuds in your ears, nothing like that. Just go with something to write with and something to write on. And you can even take some photos if you want with this, but jot down some notes. Jot down any descriptions, observations, etc. of your experiences. What do you see? How do you feel when you're there? What do you smell? What does the space look like? What are you hearing while you're there? All those sensory descriptive images and language that we talked about with the narrative essay in this, I believe you want to apply that to here. So you just want to spend some time sort of middling around the park. And if you go to Lamar Park, I would encourage you to walk around the walking trail out on the exterior of the park. Go over to Lake Patsy. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you feel when you're in those spaces? So take some notes. You can even take pictures if you want to, along with those notes so that you can remember what they are. And then I want you to think about some of what you see there, the flora and fauna of the space. So do a little bit of research about the kinds of trees that are there. Do a little bit of research about Lake Patsy, for example. Do a little bit of research about the birds that maybe you see there, or the squirrels that are there, or whatever you see going on there. Do a little bit of research there. And then I want you to ultimately write an essay in the style of Knighton that blends your personal experience with discussions of nature and history about the natural space that you explored. So let's say, for example, that you go to Lamar Park and you're there, you take some notes about what you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you feel, all of that, what you're observing. And then you do a little bit of research on Lake Patsy. How did Lake Patsy get there? Who's responsible for maintaining Lake Patsy? What do people do when they go there in terms of utilizing Lake Patsy? Maybe you see some squirrels there. Maybe you see certain kinds of trees that are located there. Or maybe you research and find out, Lamar Park is littered with oak trees. All of that information you'll want to put into your essay, but you want to write this in the style that Conor Knighton writes in one of those 17 of 23 chapters where he goes and visits the park. And you want to write about what do you learn and what is your experience based on the space that you explored, based on the natural elements that you see, how it made you feel, what you heard, what you saw, what kind of life is in that particular space. And you write it in the style of Conor Knighton in one of his chapters. So this is going to blend some narrative, some first person with some information and evidence to support the information that you're writing about. So that is the third prompt. So my guidance to you on either one of these prompts is you have to deal with every element of each prompt. So if you picked prompt number 3, the one we just went over, you have to deal with everything or only deal with the issues that are related to prompt 3. If you picked prompt 2, only deal with the information and requirements in prompt 2. In other words, don't mix and match. Don't mix a couple of questions and ideas from prompt 2 and a couple of questions and ideas from prompt 3 and make that an essay. You have to satisfy the information within each prompt. So make sure that you're interested in that prompt, committed to that prompt, and that you stay focused on that particular prompt and don't mix and match bits and pieces from the other prompts together for an essay. So just keep that in mind. You'd be surprised how many people sort of pick and choose elements from different prompts and create an essay. And it ends up not being a very good essay because the prompts are a little bit different in their approach. So commit to one prompt, deal with that one prompt, and don't mix and match from other areas. So here's just the basic essay requirements, the nuts and bolts. I would highly suggest and recommend that you don't wait until the last minute to do this, particularly if you haven't read much of Leave Only Footprints. As I mentioned a moment ago, you've got your work cut out for you. You've got a lot of work to do if you haven't done any of the reading, because that reading is going to fuel your ability to write the essay based on those prompts. But don't wait till the last minute. This is not an essay that you can write on Sunday morning or Sunday night at 6 p.m. and do it really well and do it in a manner I think that will represent your best thinking and writing and have that submitted by midnight. So don't wait till the last minute. Get started on this early. I'm happy to talk to you at any time if you have questions or concerns about the draft, about the prompts. If you would like me to look at an outline or a paragraph or a thesis statement or whatever it is that you're working on, I'm happy to do that and give you some feedback. Happy to look at partial drafts, total drafts, whatever it is. If you want to just bounce some ideas around, talk through some things that you're considering for the essay, I'm happy to do that as well. Just let me know. The length of this essay should be about 1,500 words or about 3 typed double-spaced pages. So whichever prompt you decide to use for this essay, you want to do a very detailed, very intricate reflection and writing on the prompts themselves. So you have plenty of time, plenty of space to really go in depth and in detail in answering those prompts for this essay, whichever prompt you choose. So no need to rush, no need to sort of skip over things. You can really drill deep, really drill down deep and get into some of this in terms of evidence from the text and style and all of that with a lot of detail. But you're looking for about 3 typed double-spaced pages, about 1,500 words. You want to make sure that your paragraphs have structure and organization, just like we've talked about and that you demonstrated with the narrative essay. You should have topic, sentence, and supporting details. Make sure that you cite information from the book to support what you're saying. Make sure that you do not turn in an essay that has no information cited from the book or those video clips or anything else for support. One of the skills we're working on as we lead up into our last 2 essays is being able to pull information from other material and synthesize that into our own discussion. So this is good practice of that. So make sure that you have supporting information. If you're interested in going to the Writing Center, if you're interested in some extra credit for this particular essay, there is an extra credit Writing Center option that's worth 10 points. And you can schedule a session just as you did with the This I Believe essay and work with a Writing Center tutor on a draft of your paper. My suggestion is on that, the more you take in terms of a draft, the more feedback you're going to get, the more beneficial that feedback is going to be. So if you take a completed draft in to work with a Writing Center tutor on that draft, you're going to get a lot more feedback and a lot more beneficial information to help you revise than if you just take a paragraph or 2. But I'm not limiting in terms of what constitutes as extra credit. If you only take a paragraph in, if you feel like you really need some help with one paragraph, or if you really need help with your thesis, that's what you want to talk to them about and work with them on, then that counts as your 10 extra credit points. I just always recommend taking more writing in than less because you get more feedback on more writing. They can only work with what you bring them and what you present them. So keep that in mind, but there is an opportunity for some extra credit if you're interested. Just as we talked about before, make sure if you do go to the Writing Center that your tutor that you work with or instructor that you work with sends me a copy, an electronic copy of what I call a proof of visit sheet, which tells me when you were there, what you were talking about, who you worked with, and all of that information. The due date for this is next Sunday, October 12th by 11:59, and then the rubric is attached here, and you can see everything that I'm looking for there, and this is worth 100 points towards your total score / point total / grade in the class. So I'm going to stop sharing that for now and go back to the main screen here. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to go over the assignment sheet with you, go over those prompts, talk about some things to consider when you're dealing with one of those prompts. But my biggest recommendations are be sure you've read the book. My second recommendation is be sure that you choose a prompt that you're interested in and that you're connected to in some way. Don't wait till the last minute to work on this particular essay. And let me know if you have any questions or concerns about it, or if you'd like me to look at a draft, partial draft, an outline, or if you want to talk through some ideas, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. If you want some extra credit, you can certainly go to the Writing Center and schedule an appointment with one of the Writing Center instructors. You know how to do that now. We did that with Narrative Essay 1. If you've forgotten any of that, you can go back and watch Ellen Shelton's video back in Module 1 where she talks about how to do all of that. and how to come to the Writing Center, how to make an appointment if you want a virtual session, and all of that stuff as well. So good luck on the essay. Let me know if I can be of any more help, and I'll talk to you again soon.